Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another installment of Scott Selections here for Monday, September 9th. Before we get into today's play of the day, quick explanation of what happened yesterday. I ended up traveling to the Parks Casino in Pennsylvania, and I realized I was not going to be able to make a video yesterday. I tried to reach out to some other people, but by the time I reached out, it was already too late. So apologies if you were looking forward to a video yesterday. That was my bad. But I'm back home now, so look for videos to continue on a daily basis. However, we will recap Saturday's games since I was unable to do that yesterday. We ended up getting two winners on the Maryland money line at minus 121. They won by about 120, give or take, as Syracuse got destroyed. And we also won on the Colorado State minus 11.5 as they won by 25. So we swept the board in college football. Definitely a good sign on Saturday. College football has been very kind to us. In terms of the NFL, let's just say that I'm happy that I didn't actually play anything, as pretty much all of the huge favorites did not cover, and there weren't really that many nail biters besides the Lions, who blew a massive lead and ended up tying, which I still think is one of the dumbest rules in sports. Tying is just a complete waste of time. I don't get how you're supposed to play 3 hours or so of people just beating each other up and then say it's okay, it's a tie. I don't think that makes any sense, and they should continue to play it. I don't even care if it's like college or not. Just keep playing until somebody wins. I think a tie solves absolutely nothing, and I think you pretty much wasted everybody's time. Other than that, though, going into today's card, there are two games going on in the Monday night special in Week 1. You have the Denver Broncos against the Oakland Raiders. Easy pass. I have no interest in watching that game, let alone betting that game. Antonio Brown controversy was fun, but in terms of the actual game itself, I have no interest in either team. Yeah, Josh, it's actually going to be on the play of the day, so I'm going to get into that in a second. But in terms of the other game, you have the Houston Texans versus the New Orleans Saints in the Superdome. In terms of that question, Josh, since it is not actually going to be the exact play of the day, I will lean to the Saints at minus 6.5 on that one. That is not the play of the day. That's just my personal lean. Houston was originally at +7. They're now at plus 6.5. I don't really trust Bill O'Brien in any of these games. I know that their offensive line improved with Tunsil, but at the same point, you'll lose Clowney, and I don't really know how you're supposed to stop Drew Brees if you have no pass rush. So based on that, lean to the Saints in the Superdome. But in terms of the play of the day, we're actually going to be looking at another prop as we ended up cashing the prop on the Thursday night game with the Rodgers no interceptions. And for the play of the day today, we'll be taking Michael Thomas on the over receiving yards. Let me get the exact number of that on on 5 dimes. We'll be taking Michael Thomas receiving yards over 83.5, which is available at minus 125 on 5 dimes. Now, the main reason why we like this, first of all, the general consensus of the fact that Drew Brees is one of the best quarterbacks of all time. He's going to be in the Superdome, so therefore the weather's going to be fine. Michael Thomas just got a huge extension during the offseason, so he's going to be around for a long time, and I expect him to try to put on a show in his first game in front of the home crowd ever since he signed that extension during the offseason. But the main reason involves the deterioration of the Texans' defense. I know that last year their defense was very solid against the run, and they were awful against the pass. They're one of the worst teams against the pass. Now the Texans got rid of Jadeveon Clowney. They got rid of Tyrann Mathieu. They got rid of Kareem Jackson. They even lost Andre Hall to retirement. So I don't really know how they're supposed to cover all these people during the, during this game, especially against Brees and the Saints' high-powered offense. I know that the Saints have committed a little bit more to a running approach. They did lose Mark Ingram, so I expect them to throw it a little bit more with Kamara in the backfield. But overall, I know that they added to Sean Gibson and Bradley Colby to potentially replace Tyrann Mathieu and Kareem Jackson. They're not the same quality players. I think Thomas is going to go off. I think he should go for at least 100-something yards, even if the number 2 receiver is Ted Ginn Jr., so you have to worry about potentially double-teaming Michael Thomas. I still think that Kamara is a big enough threat of the backfield. They have to account for him. Plus, Ted Ginn's mostly a deep threat as a whole, so I expect him to attract some safety coverage over the top. I expect Thomas to have at least 8 receptions or so, and I expect him to go for at least 100 yards. Texans were awful against the pass last year. Now they just got worse. So I will assume that this game's going to turn into a shootout based on the over-under being roughly 52. I think the Saints should score roughly 28 to 30-something points. And if that's the case, I have to assume that Thomas is going to go over. So based on that, the play of the day will be on Michael Thomas, receiving yards over 83.5, which is available at minus 125 on 5 dimes. Quick question here. Moving on, looking at some of the questions here. Robert wants to know what I think about the Broncos money line. I think that game is very tricky. I know that money originally came in on Oakland because Antonio Brown was supposed to play. Then it went towards Denver when Antonio Brown was not supposed to play. Then it went back to Oakland when Antonio Brown was supposed to play again. And now Antonio Brown got released and Denver is up to a minus 2.5 to a minus 3-point favorite. In terms of this game, I really don't know what to think of this spot. I'm personally going to lean to Oakland. I know that sounds crazy, but I don't really see what Denver has shown in preseason or just based on their offseason acquisitions on why I feel confident betting on Denver pretty much ever. I know Joe Flacco is a Super Bowl winning quarterback, but for the most part, he's a check down Charlie who is afraid to take any deep shots down the field. I think Denver's receivers are okay. I think Phillip Lindsay's a pretty good running back. But overall, and I think their defense is pretty good. But overall, do I really feel confident laying 3 on the road with Denver? No. I know Oakland, even though they lost Antonio Brown and don't really have many weapons on offense, they did play in the preseason, and I think that does matter. Antonio Brown did not, but Derek Carr played multiple series without Antonio Brown on the field. So I think it won't be as big of a shell shock as people are making it out to be that he's not going to be on the field. Do I think Oakland's offense will struggle a little bit? Yes, but I don't trust Denver's offense enough to actually cover the spread on the road. So personally, I'll lean to Oakland plus 3. I think that if you are looking at a 2.5 or so, I'll lean to Denver. But getting 3 points at home, I think the worst case is I think you're looking at a push. I think Denver's offense will struggle to score more than 17 points. So for me, and I think Oakland's defense is actually not that bad. Are they a great unit? No. But I definitely think that Abram on the secondary is a big hitter who should make an impact on the defensive line. On the defensive secondary. Plus, Burfict, I know he's a dirty player, but he is still a decent linebacker, and he is able to strike some fear into opposing wide receivers and running backs up the middle, as he is not afraid to, whether it's a cheap shot or not, to rough him up a little bit. So for me, lean to Oakland there on the plus 3. Not confident in that at all. But for me, I'm going to pass on that game entirely. But if I had to pick a side, I would take Oakland as the home team plus 3. Another question here. If I had the Broncos or Raiders total, would I lean to the under? Johnny, I'd have to lean to the under on that one. Anytime Joe Flacco's in a game and it's not the year they won the Super Bowl, I have to lean to the under. The receivers are okay with Emmanuel Sanders and Hamilton. They have a couple of pieces. Lindsey's a good running back. But overall, I already know that Joe Flacco is going to dump the ball off to tight ends at least 10 times, or is going to try to for minimal gains. I don't really like Flacco. I never really have. I know he was great that 1 year. But overall, I have to lean to the under. Derek Carr, I know the offense is decent. I know Gabe Jackson, though, is going to be out. So that should impact the pass protection he will get from the Broncos' lethal defensive line with Chubb and Miller. I expect both teams to get into the high teens, low 20s or so. For me, I'll have to lean to the under, as I think that this game will be relatively ugly. And I think that if you want to watch a football game tonight, you should be watching the Texans versus Saints. That's just my thought. But in terms of another comment from Josh, he thinks the Saints will beat the Texans by more than 2 touchdowns. I think that might be a little bit excessive. I think that the Saints will cover the 6.5. But anytime you have Deshaun Watson, whose ability to run around is pretty much unprecedented in today's NFL, with his ability to throw the ball deep with accuracy. I know Will Fuller's back, so that should add another deep weapon for the Texans. I think it'll be a high-scoring game. I think the Saints should win by 7 or 10. But for me, play of the day is going to be on Michael Thomas, over 83.5 receiving yards, which is available at minus 125 on 5 dimes. Now, in terms of baseball, I'm personally just going to skip the baseball leans. Not really in the mood to cover today's card. Not really paying much attention to baseball nowadays, now that football is around the clock. If you wanted some leans, I can give them out in the future. But overall, not really that interested. Overall, though, quick reminder of our sponsor, PointsBet, all in sportsbook in New Jersey. A couple of great deals for you. Up to 2 risk-free bets up to $1,000. So if you end up betting on any sports and end up losing, you simply get your money back. It was a great promotion I wish more sportsbooks would use. Quick question from Josh. He does want me to cover the Braves and Phillies game. I actually wrote an article about that last night, so I am pretty well-versed in that matchup. For me personally, I will lean to the Braves. I know the Phillies have just won the last 2 games against the Mets. Congratulations. You beat the Mets. I'm proud of you. But overall, the Braves have won 9 straight before losing to the Nationals yesterday. So that means they've won 9 out of 10. They've won 23 of their last 30, which is the best record in all of baseball. The Braves are on the verge of clinching the NL East. I know that the Phillies and Braves have been relatively even. Fultonowicz has been very solid so far since the All-Star break, as he has roughly a 3.31 ERA and a 3-0 record, and he's also 1-0 with a 1.5 ERA against the Phillies this season. Nola's 3-0 against the Braves. I think it's pretty much a toss-up in terms of the starting pitching matchup based on recent form. However, I still hate the Phillies bullpen with a passion. The Braves bullpen has had the best ERA since August 15th, and if this game is closed late, I lean to Atlanta. For me, Phillies defense is going to be the team's Achilles heel, and I simply just don't like this unit. So for that reason, lean to the Braves at an underdog price here. You're giving me the best team in the division, arguably the second best team in the National League, at plus 123. I think that's offensive to me, and I think this line should be somewhere in the realm of either minus 110 or even plus 105. So I think plus 120 something is a little bit ridiculous. So for value alone, I have to lean to the Braves. But the play of the day, as I will mention once again for the fifth time, is on Michael Thomas receiving yards over 83.5, which is available at minus 125 on 5 dimes. Other than that, though, that's going to over this installment of Scott Selections here for Monday, September 9th. And good luck to all of you and your respective bets today. Bye, everyone.